this class so that I can upload this to VCHS.net. All right, so pretty pictures. Today, we are going to jump into making some art. This is gonna give us an even greater degree of interactivity in our programs. We're going to be able to display art on our screen. So we are going to be drawing on the canvas, as what the rectangle we're going to be drawing on is going to be called. And if you've taken either one of my intro classes before, this is a completely different library from either of them. So we're all starting from the same place. So first, let's talk about our coordinate plane. So in math, what are my two axes?
X and Y.
X and Y. And which one's which?
The horizontal one's Y. No, wait, I'm so dumb. The vertical one's Y and the horizontal one's X.
Absolutely correct. Vertical is Y, horizontal is X. Where is my center? Where is 0, 0 here?
The intersection.
It's at the intersection. Which direction is positive for each of my axes? Which direction is positive X?
Right.
Right, and which way is positive Y?
Up.
Up, correct. So I have positive X, positive Y, and negative Y. So in our graphics programs, we are going to be operating solely in the positive X and positive Y quadrant. However, we are going to flip it vertically so that 0, 0 is at the top left corner and positive Y is going downward on our screen. So Y values will get larger as we move downward. X values will continue to get larger as we move right, as we would expect. So that is something to keep in mind while we are working with this, working in our graphics program, is that bigger Y values are further down on the screen rather than further up. And the reason this is I don't know. Someone decided this, so this is the way it is. Just an example of a coordinate, we have 100 in the X, 200 in the Y, 100, 200. Same X, Y coordinate value notation. I could have 200 and 0, so I'm not moving any distance down in my Y direction. Does the coordinate plane in our graphics program make sense? Roughly how it works? Cool. And our values that we're going to be counting by is number of pixels, how far across or how far down in pixels we are moving. So we can use the getWidth function to tell us how wide our canvas is in pixels. And we can use the getHeight function to tell us how many pixels our canvas is in height. So we can use those two functions, and I'll talk later about how we're going to be, implementing them. So if I want to display text on my canvas, I need to create a variable to store that text object. So I'm going to make a variable called myText. It's going to equal text with a capital T and then the string I want to store. So myText is the name of my variable. I'm using text with those parentheses, the text function. This is going to create a value that is ready to display on our canvas. And then the value we give to our text is the string value that we want to actually display. So once I have created my text type variable, I need to choose where on my canvas that value is going to be placed. Then I can add it to my canvas. So my text.setPosition, this function is going to be used to determine where on my canvas I'm going to place my text variable. Now, this is my x, y coordinate for the bottom left corner of my text. So something that is slightly frustrating about this graphics library is that we're going to draw 3 different things today, and the reference point for all 3 is completely different. So I don't know why, it's a little bit infuriating that it's so inconsistent, but here it is. So when we do text, the coordinate we provide is the bottom left corner of the text. And then the add function is just going to put that value at that position on our canvas. And there are even more options than just our position. We can select a color from a selection of colors, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. We can also change the font and size of the letters. When we are using the set font, we need to include both how big in like what point value, essentially how many pixels tall we want it to be, and we also need to choose what font we want it to be. So you can keep it as Arial, you can change it to a different font, and if you want to change the size of your text, you can change the number here. So an example of what this code looks like, I have hello world, because that is what is in my text. My position is 100, 100, which is the bottom left corner of that H. I've set my color to red, and my text is in 50-point Arial font. Does creating and adding text to our canvas make sense? All right. So text, we've already been working with text though, so let's do some actual art. Let's draw some circles. A circle can be drawn in a similar fashion. We need to make a variable, and then we need to initialize it with a circle value, with a capital C. So we create my variable, my circle, and make it equal the circle function with a capital C, and we put a number in here. Who wants to guess what that number represents?
Radius.
Radius, absolutely correct. So this number is going to determine the radius, or the distance from the center to the edge of the circle that we draw. When I set a position for a circle, that is the XY coordinate for the center of the circle. This one at least makes some sense. We're choosing exactly where on the canvas we want the center of our circle to be. We can set a color for this as well, although we don't need to set a font for a circle because circles don't have fonts. That wouldn't really make sense. So we can just set our color, and then we're going to add our circle to our canvas. So here's what that would look like when I run my code. My circle equals circle with a radius of 25. My position is 100, 100. So right here, center, and then I've set my color to be blue and added my circle to my canvas. And the other shape that we can draw is a rectangle. Rectangles are drawn very similarly to circles. We need to create the rectangle variable and then initialize it with our rectangle value like this. My variable is named myRect. I'm creating a rectangle with 2 numbers now. What do we think these numbers represent?
Length and width.
Length and width, correct. Or I guess or to give us a little bit more clarity on which one's which, we have width and then height. So width is going to be our X length and height is going to be our Y length. All right, who wants to guess what our reference point for a rectangle is going to be? Because it's different from either of the other ones. Any guesses?
Bottom right.
Good guess. It is actually the top left. It's just a different corner. Honestly, who knows why? Certainly not me. It'd be great if it was consistent between text and rectangles, but it's super not. So our XY coordinate is going to be referencing the top left corner of our rectangle. We can set our color for our rectangle as well and add it to our canvas. So if I do that, I have my 50 by 100 rectangle, 50 wide, 100 tall. My top left corner is going to be at 100, 100. My color is green, and I've added it to my rectangle. No worry, Alex. Wi-Fi is definitely not stellar for everyone. It's totally okay. All right, so does drawing all those different shapes track? Understand different properties we need to provide? Cool. All right. So this is the list of available colors. We have color.red, green, blue, yellow, cyan, white, black, gray, purple, and orange. All of them are being referenced from the color with a capital C. So color.red, color.green, etc. And this is the actual color within our program that those are going to store. However, this is only 10 colors, right? They're nice colors, but there's still only 10 of them. What if I want more colors? The answer is you totally can have more colors. The values stored in those variables, the color.red, color.green, those are strings which store the hex code for the color that they correspond to. So if you want to add your own colors, you can put your desired colors hex code in the string, or as a string in your set color, and it will choose whatever color you want. So here are the hex codes for the colors that are already available. And if you want to select your own hex code, the quickest and easiest way to find a hex code for a color you want is just to Google color picker. Google will give you this interface. You can select what kind of color you want, and then you can drag your color around for different saturation and hue. And then down here, you can just select that, copy and paste it, and you will have the hex code for the color of your choice. So this opens up a huge number of different colors available beyond just the 10. We'll learn later in this year how to actually read what a hex code means, but for right now is just know how to use one in this program and where to find them should you want to. All right, any questions about finding colors and how to add them to our program? Does that make sense? Cool. All right. So we can use the get width and get height functions to determine how big our canvas is. So this top left corner is at 0, 0. Our right side, the X value is at our get width value, however many pixels that is. And our bottom is at the get height value of pixels, however many pixels that is. So this corner is going to be our get width, comma, get height, corner, and etc. So using that information, no matter how many pixels my canvas actually is, I can divide each of those numbers by 2 to find the center of my canvas. So if I want to place something in the middle, I can use this coordinate, get width over 2, comma, get height over 2, to place something right in the middle. I can also find the width and height of shapes that I've drawn, such as texts, rectangles, or circles. And this is most useful for text because depending on how many letters we make, our width could be vastly different. So if I make a variable my text equaling the text howdy, I can find the width of the text by saying my text dot get width and save that into a variable. And same for height. This can be super helpful for centering an object in the middle of our canvas. Because if I just say my center X is get width and get height, I have my center of my text, and then my text is howdy still, my width and height, and then I set my position to center X, center Y. Since I use the bottom left corner for my text, the bottom left corner of my text is going to be centered on screen, right? So what could I do with these variables to make it so that my center of my text is centered on screen? How far left does my text need to move?
Half of the width.
Half of its width. And how far down does my text need to move?
Half of the height.
Half of the height, absolutely correct. So I can use those two variables. Which direction is left? Which is that positive X or negative X?
Negative.
Negative X, correct. So I need to subtract half my width to go left. And then which direction is down? That positive or negative Y? I heard you break up, but I think you said positive. So we need to add our value of half of our height to our Y. So, like I said, we can adjust by half its width and height. So if I subtract my text width over 2 and add my text height over 2 to my X and Y, that will move the text to be centered on my canvas. Cool. All right, I'm going to do one more example. And this example is on CodeHS, so you can actually play with this one if you want. This one's one of the example programs you're given. We're going to draw an 8-ball with the circle and the number 8 centered on our canvas. So I can find my center X and Y for my canvas the same way as before. I'm going to make my ball with a circle function with radius 100. And I will set my position to my center X and center Y. Boom, it's right in the middle. If I do not set a color for a value, the default fill color is going to be black. So default color black, super easy. I don't need to change anything because I'm making an 8-ball. Now if I add my text, I want my color to be white. I want my font to be 50 point and Arial. And if I set my position to be center X and center Y, I have that same problem as before with my bottom left corner being at the center. So once again, I need to find the width and height, find the number for my X, my number for my Y. My X coordinate is going to be center X minus my number's width over 2, and my Y value is going to be my center Y coordinate plus my number's height over 2. And I can set my position using those two numbers and add my number to my canvas, and boom, I have my magic 8-ball. So does the math for placing things on canvas using those relative values make sense? All right. Feel free to let me know if you have questions. I'm going to go ahead and unlock those modules for you guys. All right, it is available now. And for some reason, this graphics library doesn't seem to be in the sandbox. The Python graphics in the sandbox of CodeHS is a different graphics library. So if you want to make your own programs and play around with it, I would just use one of those example programs that's within this module and just overwrite it and do your own stuff.